So the Fab Four have decided that they're going to try to take over WoW yet again. We have a bunch of trios teams gathering together to start a tournament next week, and we have a WoW World Championship match between my frenemy and Katrina's actual enemy. This is Steph and Kat Talk WoW.
Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs, and the room is stutters. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape for every one of us. I was kinda late, cause I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the faith, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate.
Hey y'all, welcome on this WoW Wednesday to Steph and Kat Talk WoW, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. I am, of course, your big Bama energy girl, Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of this fabulous platform, HWP, as well as contributing writer for Daily DDT and color commentator, looking for bookings in 2024, looking for those new bookings because I have dreams that I want to come true. But of course, I am not alone. I am with the fabulous creator of In Cat We Trust. She is a host, she is a commentator, she is a ring announcer, she is a super mother, and she is the creator of the Women of Color in Wrestling panel. She is my tag team partner, Katrina Blake. How are you, Kat?
Hey, happy Wednesday. I am fine, tired. It's been a day, but I am fine, happy to be here. I did catch the way you introed that to say the enemy thing, possibly, you know, possibly, but definitely happy to be here and happy to talk some WoW.
Absolutely. And I understand, being tired because, of course, mentally I'm tired, but that's just because the state of Alabama just got rocked with some crazy news. If you know, college football is our thing down here. And when it comes to dominance, the Alabama Crimson Tide has had some dominance due to the coach, or I guess you could say the future former head coach, Nick Saban. So right now we are sort of going through an emotional shock, but, as long as wrestling is still going on, we're going to still be here talking about it all. So yeah, it's crazy, but we're going to get through it. This year is starting off with a bang and you just can't fight it anywhere. It's really crazy stuff going on, but we are here to talk about the hottest all women's wrestling show on television, WoW Women of Wrestling Superheroes, coming at you every weekend. And of course, this episode was really good and really solid for the most part. We had a title match. We had, of course, lots of tag team action, and we even had lots of crazy rap music. But of course, before we even get into the episode, there is, a level of WoW news that we have to discuss involving someone who was one of my favorite WoW superheroes in the first season of this iteration of WoW superheroes. And that was, of course, Rekka Tahaka, who was formerly known in WoW as Leia Makoa. She is of Samoan descent, and basically she was one of the tempos of WoW during the last season. She was really athletically sound, and she had an amazing story being of Samoan heritage, but yet moving to California with her family and having people sort of make fun of her because of her accent, and then her wanting to pursue wrestling, but it not being necessarily something that her family supported because they felt like, oh, well, you're a girl, you don't need to, rough yourself up or, try to hurt your face or all this other stuff. But she pursued wrestling anyway, and she is living a happy and fulfilled life because of it. And then, of course, there was that beautiful moment where she was finally able to perform in front of her family, and they were, so proud of her and just showing all kinds of, love and support towards her in that moment, which was a very touching thing. And she was one of my favorites to possibly be, a WoW world champion, because she beat some of the best women there, even Penelope Pink at some point, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. Now, of course, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments if you're watching live. But yeah, she released a statement, I believe it was either Monday or yesterday, officially addressing her status with WOW. She wrote a Facebook, well, not a Facebook note. She wrote an iPhone note stating the following. It is with mixed emotions that I inform you of my departure from WOW Women of Wrestling. My time at WOW was not just about wrestling. It was a movement of empowering women, creating bonds, teamwork, sacrifice, shared and individual goals, and mutual respect. David McLane and Jeannie Buss, thank you, and I appreciate the opportunities for growth and development my time at WOW afforded me. Much love to Selena Majors and AJ Mendez for their much guidance and support. To my sisterhood, hair and makeup, wardrobe, and everyone behind the scenes that worked together to make the magic of WOW happen, I appreciate and miss you all. Although I have departed from WOW, I am looking forward to what 2024 will bring. I am open for all bookings. So, reading this statement, of course, left a little bit of, a bittersweet taste in my mouth because of course once this season started, you really didn't see her at all, right? And then of course her and the Tonga twins and Tika Chamorro had their, short-lived faction called the Island Dynasty, and they all of course worked together just, because they had that thing in common. But they were such a beautiful unit of Polynesian women that you got to see be united together. And then after that point, once the second season started, you didn't see her anymore. So now that she's officially released a statement saying that she's no longer there, we have to now look forward to seeing her in other places as Rekka Tahaka. And she is so talented. Of course, if you did watch WOW last season, she's a very talented woman. So we look forward to seeing what she does next. But I am absolutely grateful that I was exposed to her via WOW last season and we were able to, cover her as much as we did. And I can't wait to see what she does next. So, Katrina, how do you feel about the news of Rekka basically just walking away from WOW and releasing this statement?
It's sad. Just because I did enjoy her, on there, I saw very few of her matches as Rika, before WoW. Very, very few. And so, her being a WoW kind of just made me want to find more of her matches, and so it's sad because she was definitely one of the people I enjoyed on there. She was one of the people that I was rooting for, especially when we thought it was possible that she could have became champion last season. When she got that, we was like, well, hopefully, and obviously it didn't go that way, but we were hoping that she was gonna get the championship. And so, it's sad that she won't be in WoW, honestly. It is sad, especially when you had the Tongas, you have Atika Chimara, just kind of seeing, Polynesian women in general, just kind of shining a bit on there. And we don't have, I mean, we have enough in wrestling. What I mean is women is not as many as necessarily like the men with the Polynesian men that's in wrestling. And so, it was good to see that. But, with that being said, with me being sad about it, I'm always all for doing what you need to do to make you happy for whatever it is that you have to do, whatever step you need to take to go on to the next aspect that will make you happy, then do so. And so it is sad, but also I am looking forward to see what she's going to come up with next. Maybe she just needed a breather, maybe she needed some time, but I am all for self-care and doing what you need to do to be happy. That's always like one of my biggest things I tell people. It's like I would never, I try to be very understanding with people because it's like, no, sometimes life it can be great and sometimes it's insane and it's not always the greatest thing and you're not always happy with everything that plays out. But if you find some slice of happiness, do what you need to do to keep on to it or to make sure you get it. And so whatever she does going forward, I hope, it's would make her happy and whatever wrestling, or hopefully I can catch her at a different spot. Maybe she'll come to the east, on my end of the east, so I can catch her in live, or maybe, God willing, I can travel somewhere and catch her watching live because that'd be great. But otherwise, it's sad, but also totally understand you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, and whatever the next journey is for her, I hope it's a good one.
Absolutely. We are definitely here for, people taking care of themselves and doing what they need to do, even if that means stepping away from a large opportunity, such as this, like this is I would say probably the third largest, well, not the third, maybe the fourth, largest promotion that you could be attached to in terms of television and in terms of exposure. So the idea that she had that much exposure, from for almost a whole year is a testament to how great she was in and of itself. So what she was able to do in the short time that she was there was, really cool and admirable, and it was really, good stuff. So hopefully in the future, since she said she is free for bookings, she will be everywhere. She might come in your neck of the woods. She might come in my neck of the woods. She might decide she wants to come down south and get some stuff cracking. But, either way, I'm happy that she is still, wrestling, and I'm happy that, she still gets to chart her journey, even though it's not with WOW anymore. And just because she's not with WOW anymore doesn't mean that the interest isn't there for us to, connect in some other way. Because for all we know, she could be a guest on here one day. And we can talk to her about her career, not just about the WOW parts. So, it'll be great. But of
Yes.
course, big ups, big ups to Rekka Tahaka, formerly known as Leia Makoa, and her career moving forward in wrestling. So that's really all that we had in WOW news today. So now we're going to move to the episode proper, but we're going to have a little bit of fun in the middle, but we're going to start with the episode as it started. Now, of course, David McLane and Nigel Zane were on commentary for this episode called The Wow Factor. And when I tell you, these women had the wow factor going on here in this episode. They really did. So the episode started with Vicky Lynn McCoy and the rest of the Fab Four coming out to cut a promo. And of course, Vicky Lynn was coming out in a neck brace because the last time we saw her, she got powerbombed through a table by the Beast in their revenge match, because Vicky was the one who attacked the Beast in that alleyway and re-injured her knee to where she had to relinquish the WOW World title, which left it free for Penelope Pink to win in that match, in that gauntlet match at LA Comic-Con. And, the Beast was gunning for her, and she wound up getting revenge by power bombing her through a table. And Medical had to come out and help her, and, she had 3 herniated discs. That's what she said later on in the night. But they all came out, and Lana Starr proceeded to cut a promo first, basically saying, "How did you all get so lucky to be graced by the presence of the greatest faction in pro wrestling, the Fab Four?" And I love that they have this level of confidence, like the same level of confidence any all male faction would have. They have it, and I do appreciate that, even though they might get on my nerves sometimes. Because you certainly don't deserve it, especially you, David McLane. You've been trying to sabotage us. The only good thing you have done is grant Penelope Pink a championship match tonight that she rightfully deserves because she was never pinned. And Abilene Maverick, if you remember, I menaced you once, and that's all I needed to know to see that you were never a proper champion. And this is a true champion, as she pointed to Penelope Pink. And Penelope got on the microphone and proceeded to show us more of why she has that wow factor and that she is a rising star, because Miss Ma'am is serious on the mic. Like, I'll give credit where credit is due. She sounded very convincing. She said, "I want everybody to look at this back. This back has taken women's wrestling to heights it's never seen before. And leave it to you, David, to hire a girl to swoop in and take credit for everything that I've done. But the reality is, you're going to get smacked in the face when you realize that no matter what girl in the back has my title around their waist, nobody is me. In this ring, on this mic, nobody can lace these boots. The title doesn't make the wrestler makes the title. And Abilene, you're gonna learn the hard way why I am the best damn thing WOW has ever seen." And this was amazing. And and I feel like this year is really a turning point for a lot of people in different things. But I never expected for Penelope Pink to win me over. with the promo. She had already won me over in ring because Miss Ma'am can wrestle down. Okay. She is one of the best women's wrestlers, that isn't signed to a major company like that. Like, she is fantastic. Okay. And I've given her credit multiple times, even though she and I have had our run-ins with each other in the past on social media. And I've talked about her underhanded tactics and winning matches and cheating and all the stuff her and the Fab Four have gotten into. But when she got on this microphone and got into it, I was just like, man, she's a star. Like, she is an absolute star. And I was just like, and she was just so convincing. Like, her convention in her voice was just there. And it was just easy to grab onto. So I just loved it. I loved her promo that she cut. And then I almost thought she was going to pull a CM Punk because she was just like, in this ring on this microphone, and I thought for sure she was about to say, even in commentary, nobody can touch me. That's what I thought she was about to say, but she did it. But it's okay though. It was great. So Katrina, how did you feel about this segment involving the Fab Four?
I thought it was a fantastic segment. I know my views on Penelope, please not not your views. She did some shenanigans sometimes, but that was my girly, for the most part. And so, I definitely liked what she said. And why I can, sometimes I'll be like, sometimes things sound a little bit cocky. This actually was, I was like, tell it, speak it, but this is also possibly because I don't particularly like, the current champion. And so I'm like, maybe I'm being a little bit extra petty, but I'm like, that's right, Penelope. But also that I think Penelope can definitely wrestle. And when you think of how the Fab Four is in particular with things were said. Like the twins will say their stuff here and there, but Penelope had a lot to say even before she was champion. And so kind of her letting people know, like, I hope y'all didn't forget. And I'm like, you tell it. That's right, Penelope. And I was here for it. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, no, you're getting too cocky, but I was actually completely here for it. And yes, partially it could be because I just don't like the champion currently, but I also never really had a problem with Penelope in the way you might have had a problem with Penelope, even with the shenanigans she used to do. Um, so yeah, I was here for it. I thought it was fantastic. And then it just kind of was like, and this is why at some point you were a champion. This is champion type talking. I like this. I like this. Like maybe this will be on the way for you to maybe get it back. And just as long as somebody don't have it, that's her. But anybody else, I will be okay with at the moment. But yeah, I thought it was a really good opening, honestly, just kind of to get that out there. And even while they have engaged in a lot of nonsense, because they definitely have, I just thought it was like, that's right, Penelope, you tell it. I was with it, definitely with it.
Yeah, I was too. And I was just like, God dang, what in the world is going on? But I do believe you. You definitely have a point. It's because of the fact that the person who currently has the title, Abilene Maverick, isn't exactly the most substantial champion that we've seen, them have. And honestly, I think at this point, we're just like, look, anybody, no matter who it is, would be a better champion. And that's so terrible to say, but anybody would basically be a better champion than her at this point because Abilene she just so happens to ride on the coattails of whatever lucky break that she has. And we'll get more into it towards the main event, but literally, like, that's really all it is. It's just like she is just one of the luckiest people on the planet when it comes to, her defending that title and keeping it and all of the above. So at this point, anybody who wants the title and wants to go after it would be better off, holding it regardless. But Miss Pink really did, show improve in that promo, and she shows improves in that ring. And with as much crap as I did say about her when she wasn't defending the title that much because she claimed she was an attraction and all of that, I can say that when she did get in ring, it was still, a substantial match, though it would end in some cheating or shenanigans or whatnot. But hey, this is where we're at in 2024. So after this promo, we had another backstage promo from Fury, the heavy metal sister. And she was addressing some of her goals heading into the new year. She said, someone said that becoming an overnight sensation is every rock star's dream. Well, I'm not every rock star, and there's something special when you start out playing in front of 10 people at a dirty, tiny hole in the wall venue. And one day you're playing sold out arenas. I crave that struggle and I crave that experience. But what comes with that struggle is figuring out what works and figuring out what doesn't work. Wins, losses, tag teams, solo projects, and even a side project all comes with its own challenges. But I can tell you one thing that's for sure. WOW is my sold out arena, and the WOW World Championship is my platinum selling album. And this heavy metal sister isn't going to be a one hit wonder. And I like that very much. I was just like, okay, heavy metal sister, you're not just, a woman, you're not just, a heavy metal rock girl that's just, banging her head over and over again. Like, you are really, here to grasp this struggle and what it means to rise to the top. And I like the analogy that she used in terms of hole in the wall places and sold out arenas. I was just like, okay, y'all. I like this a lot. So Fury seems to be very focused, and I just really like this promo from her. So this led into the match, which was Fury versus Tormenta, who came out there, of course, with Sophia Lopez, the world's greatest attorney. And everybody was booing Tormenta because they were angry at how she cost the Beast the WoW World title against Abilene Maverick, one of those lucky breaks here or there. And it's just everybody was just sick of Tormenta because she's such a talented wrestler and she's just so good, but yet somehow or another, um, she just always falls short and hiccups when it comes to um getting the titles and winning those big game matches. So she really had a point to prove against Fury. But Fury started the match, she came in hot with a whole lot of punches, and she even pushed Tormenta down at one point, and literally, like, she was submitting Tormenta at one point, and she tried to basically like break her foot. But as the match went on, Tormenta did lock her up with sort of like a crossface leg lock combo. And basically it was just really a back and forth type of match. But it wasn't exactly like a back and forth in terms of ability, because of course we know Tormenta is oh my gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Tormenta is very adept when it comes to her lucha background, and then Fury is more of a hard hitter, and she's very like a brawler. So it was a little bit of a difference between the two, but either way Fury kept it going. And then of course Tormenta was choking her out, and then there you see Sophia Lopez choking her out against the ropes as that was going on. So Tormenta did have a little bit of help, because it always pays to have a manager in WoW. But Fury did fight back a couple of times, but in the end Tormenta wound up winning the match by hitting a Styles Clash, which was amazing because that's like the second time I've seen a woman within the past few days use a Styles Clash in a match. Shout out to Mia Yim on SmackDown, who used one on Io Sky in their championship match last Friday. But Tormenta won the match, but she didn't get to celebrate that long because the Beast came out for revenge and started beating up on her with clubbing blows. And then Tormenta turned her around and started beating up on her head. And then David got the microphone and started screaming for referees and security to break them apart and not to let them fight. And the referees were doing what they could, but of course these are strong women, so they just gonna push them in at the way. Um and they just kept fighting each other until they were able to break it up. So it seems that this feud is far from over. So Katrina, how did you feel about this match and the way that it ended with the Beast coming out to attack Tormenta?
I thought it was a good match. I thought that, Fury did have a lot to say, and I thought that at points she really did showcase what she was trying to say at the match. I'm not sure how I felt this should have went, only because one with you don't with Fury trying to kind of step out on her own and kind of make a name for herself outside of Heavy Metal Sisters, you kind of want her to win. But then in turn with Tormenta kind of having the moments stated where she was in matches, some big matches, there could have been some big moments where she ultimately fell short. It's like, well, you kind of need to prove yourself a little bit as well. So you kind of need to win as well. And so I did think Fury tried really hard, honestly. I thought she did. But, Tormenta did have a little bit of help. Sophia definitely was out there, making sure things went the way they wanted it to go. And so I wasn't necessarily surprised with Tormenta winning. With that being said, the beast coming out is exactly what Tormenta deserved, because Tormenta kept popping up in everybody else's matches at times when she shouldn't have been out there. And I felt like of all the people in that matchup for the title, when we had the 5 women match with Beast, her, Penelope, uh, Princess Aussie, and Abilene, she was the only one who legit was like, why were you even in the matchup? Like, you should have been in the matchup. You lost multiple times. You had the champion, a former champion, somebody who never lost the championship, and then Evelyn. I mean, whatever I guess count her in this. But my point is that you were even lucky you even got to get in this title match again. And so, like, you were probably the one with the least amount of things to be upset about, and you were just mad at everybody and messing up people's matches, and that bothered me because I'm like, girl, get it together. Get it together. So the beast coming out, this was fair game for me, because it's like, how many matches have you messed up coming in and interfering, and then the match don't go the way it's supposed to go because you out here doing shenanigans? The beast, that was very well deserved. I didn't feel anything about it. Normally I don't like people coming out and interfering in matches necessarily, but she at least was kind enough to wait before the match, and she let the match end first. At least she even let you get the win, because Tormenta was just popping out while people were fighting and just interrupting matches. At least the beast waited until you got your win to come out and beat you up. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't do it while you was actively in the match, which you were doing to people. And so I found nothing wrong with her doing that. I felt she should have been doing it rightfully so. But yeah, otherwise it was a good match.
Yeah, it was a good match. And for someone like Fury, who is trying to work her way up that ladder, and mentioning, that struggle, there are a lot of things that she's going to have to do, of course, to up her game if she wants to get that platinum selling record in terms of the WOW World Championship. So she did have a good showing against someone like Tormenta. But I didn't feel a way about the beast coming out there either. Like, I was excited, of course, when you think about, of course, the adrenaline of it all when you're watching it on television. But I didn't feel a way about it either, because I'm just like, Tormenta, you can't just keep messing people's opportunities up just because you can't necessarily get the job done. And like I said earlier, there's been time and time again where she's had championship contendership a lot of the time, but yet somehow she just can't, get the job done, and can't secure that win that would make her, the top woman in WoW. And she's blaming everybody else for it, when in actuality she needs to look in the mirror herself and get herself together, like you said. So I didn't feel sorry for her at all, because the beast is just really frustrated, because she never lost that title. She only had to give it up. Like, she only had to give the title up. She never had, to fight for it and lose it. And then when she thought she could defend it, she wound up getting injured again due to someone being vicious to her in the form of Vicky. So I could imagine somebody like the Beast just being real frustrated and just deciding to beat everybody's ass, because what the heck are you doing? But yeah, I didn't feel a way either. And I hope that somehow or another they get put in a match where they have to destroy one another, hopefully in a WoW cage match. I'm still pushing for a WoW cage match. So David, if you watch this or if you listen in, I'm pushing for a WoW steel cage match between Tormenta and the Beast. Make it happen, make it happen, make it happen. So yeah, I'm glad that that's not over. So the second match that was happening is the first of 2 tag team matches that we had. And it was, of course, Miami Sweet Heat, who came out earlier in the beginning of the show, versus the Mighty Mites Sugar and Spice, who, of course, made their debut a few either last week or a few weeks ago. But I thought this was a pretty astounding match in terms of the abilities of Sugar and Spice, because these 2 women have so much wrestling ability within them, and they really did give the Carlson sisters a run for their money in the first half of the match. Like, Sugar and Lindsay started the match first, and Lindsay, of course, pushed Sugar off of her, but then Sugar twisted Lindsay up with sort of like an arm submission in her wrist, and then Spice tugged on and then hit a drop kick to Sugar as she tripped up Lindsay. And it was just like, the way that the Mighty Mites were utilizing their bodies, of course, to get the upper hand on the Carlson sisters in the beginning was just really innovative, and I thought that was really cool. It almost puts you in the mind of Team KC Squared from WWE, the women's tag team champions over there, and how they use their bodies a lot when it comes to their offense, and it was just really cool. And then, of course, Sugar actually splashed Lori in the corner of the ring, and then Spice kicked Lindsay into the ring corner, and they really just had the upper hand throughout the entire match. And there was even one point where after they both splashed both members the of Miami Sweet Heat, they were stomping all over their chest like they had the Holy Ghost. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I really wanted the Mighty Mites to upset the Carlson sisters here, because imagine being a brand new WOW tag team and you beat a former WOW tag team champions. Like, that would have been amazing. But as it turns out, the match trajectory changed when the Carlson sisters, separated Spice away from Sugar and just isolated her and started choking her out on the ropes and then tripping her up and hitting her with clubbing blows or whatnot. And then eventually Spice was finally able to tag in Sugar, and she was able to fight back against the Carlson sisters. But both of the sisters got back in, the twins got back in and gave a double suplex to Spice, and then knocked Sugar off of the apron and hit Spice with a fab jab in order to win the match. So the Carlson twins won, and then they also cut a promo against David McLane saying that, he was just trying to keep them from getting back what was rightfully theirs in terms of the WOW tag team titles, and that they will beat whoever with a 1, 2, 3 count, to get back into number one contendership for those tag team titles. And they called everybody in the audience LA losers. So there was that. And after that, they left. So Miami Sweet Heat got the win here. So Katrina, how did you feel about the performance of the Mighty Mites here? And do you think that Miami Sweet Heat, is on a good trajectory to get those titles back?
I do think Miami Sweet Heat, if they keep it up, it's possible for them to kind of get themselves back to the top to win it. But, and this is not even shade to them, I don't want that to be anytime soon. And I say this only because we've seen them in the Tonga so much in the last 2 seasons. It's like, do we need to see this one more time? You don't want to push the feud to the point where you're like, oh, okay, like you don't want that to happen. And I feel like, if they get there, it needs to be not that make it difficult, but I'm okay if another team gets there first. Like I'm okay with that, because we did see a lot of them and the Tongas. With that being said, I do think Sugar and Spice, I think they did a fantastic job. It was actually quite a few times it looked like it might have gone the other way, because they were kind of really giving it to them. Could have been a little bit. I don't know if I say upset, because they have been getting booed. So I don't know if it would have been upset if Miami Sweet Heat would have lost necessarily. In regards to what they've been doing in the last few months in general, just in general. And so I don't know if it would have been got upset, but I do think for Sugar and Spice, it definitely could have been something like, oh man, you guys knocked them down, even if it's just for this one match. But either way, I think if anything, this is just showing just how good Sugar and Spice is, and I'm just like really, really looking forward to seeing what else we're gonna get for them, what other matches we're gonna get for them. I even want to kind of see how they are solo, not to break them up, just to kind of see what their strengths are without the partner in the ring. It's kind of just give a better vibe, better feel for them. But I think it was a great match. And I can definitely, I guess, understand. I mean, I'm not sure why they are so upset with David, considering I felt like he was pretty nice when they were champions. He let a lot of stuff slide. It's for me, I felt, and so I'm like, why y'all this upset when y'all was doing shenanigans before and he pretty much let it slide? Y'all was doing whatever. Don't be this upset about it. But otherwise, I thought it was a fantastic, good tag team match.
Now, I wouldn't mind seeing Sugar and Spice, separated either, just to see how they would perform on the solo tip. But then at the same time, I feel like they're such a new tag team that we would have to see them perform a little bit more and actually gain some wins that way before they would separate. But I do get what you're saying, and they are really solid, on their own. So I wouldn't mind seeing them, perform on their own either. But however, like, I just really feel like Miami Sweet Heat and the Fab 4 as a whole are just spoiled. And that's the reason why they keep coming after David and picking looking at him all the time, because when stuff was going their way, it was almost like they would pick at David, but not nearly as they weren't going nearly as hard when they were getting what they wanted. Whereas now, since none of them are champions anymore, they feel like, oh well, it's his fault, so it's just easy to pick on them before they truly go and pick on the people who actually beat them. I mean, because my thing is, David just books the matches. He's not responsible for how the matches turn out per se. I mean, Jesus, like, it's athleticism that wins the match at the end of the day. And when Miami Sweet Heat lost to the Tonga twins, they lost by themselves, so they had to take the L on their own. And there's just a lack of responsibility there. And honestly, if they want to work their way back up, then of course, that should take some time for them to do that, because frankly, they have been really spoiled to me. But of course, who knows, maybe within the next few weeks or maybe even within the next month, they'll get their, opportunity. Considering they're really, I mean, because really outside of them, they're the only ones who consistently talk about them wanting the tag team titles back, because the Brat Pack, they are a solid tag team, but they never really talk about the tag team titles all that much. And last week they were talking about, entering the trios tournament. And then of course you have Team Spirit, who's in the trios tournament as well. There really aren't that many teams talking about, going after the tag titles all that much. Not even the Mother Truckers. So it's just really interesting where the tag title picture is, but I'm pretty sure eventually, the picture will get clearer as we move along, because the year has just started, so we just got to wait and see what happens. But of course, the Carlson twins wound up winning this match, and they wound up staying on commentary for the next tag team match that we're about to talk about. But before we go off into there is something fun that I wanted to mention, Katrina. I was having a conversation with someone special in my life, my boyfriend, and we were talking about how some of the similarities, we were talking about the similarities between WoW and this iteration of NXT. And he was telling me how sometimes he feels that WoW is sort of like, he was feeling like NXT is just sort of like a bigger budget version of WoW, because of all the storylines that they might have going on, and because of all the characters that they have been building since 2.0. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's really interesting that you say that, because last night when NXT was on and I saw Tony D'Angelo and Stacks out there with Adriana Rizzo, I thought about Adriana Gambino. And I was just like, you know what? They do have a lot of characters here that would be cool in the WoW universe. So Katrina, the question that I have for you is, would you be down for an NXT and WoW crossover if there was ever a possibility?
Oh, that would be great. Both shows. I cover both shows, but um, I love both shows for different reasons, and I think we do have some women that I can definitely see interactive with some of the women in WoW. I think there will be some women that will probably give, even if they was to do like a random having some of them tag with each other, but from the other brands, I think we can get that'll be some awesome tag teams. I think we can even get some awesome matches just from solo women from there and from WoW. So I would love it personally. I mean, I don't think it would happen, but I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'm like, okay, get me, give that happens in the universe somewhere and take my money vibes, like, okay, well, what do I need to do to be there? Like, I do think they can definitely pull off like some fun stuff. And then just even like with just the Beast by herself, who can maybe run through, shade to the NXT girlies. But there's quite a few girls that she might just run through. And I wouldn't, not that I want them to get beat up or anything, but like also to kind of just to see her, it's like fresh meat, like new girlies. I wouldn't mind just seeing what they could do with both brands. And so if, throwing it in the universe, if somebody wants to be inclined to work something out, even if it's for like a day, I would not be opposed at all. I would be very happy to see that.
Yeah, I would too, because as it was happening and as we were having the discussion, I was just like, there are so many characters in NXT, and on WoW that are just so similar to each other that if they were to combine like and just make like giant factions or have matches, it would just be insane. Because especially when I think of Chase U and how they've been having some issues, financially, can you even imagine the code like Team Spirit helping them, get their stuff together? Like that would be pretty insane. And then you'd have Adriana Gambino sort of being sort of like this, I guess, number two to Adriana Rizzo, in their little group and everything. Like that would just be really sick. Or, you can book the Beast versus Lash Legend. Like that would be insane because you would have two incredibly statuesque black women going up against each other and fighting each other. I just felt like when my boyfriend mentioned that to me, it was sort of like a meeting of the minds where I was having these ideas but not really knowing like exactly how to make it happen. And then he combined it, with my idea, and I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like it would be an amazing crossover event if NXT had a crossover with WoW. And then of course you would have Nikita Lyons, who was, a WoW girl, reconnecting with her roots in a way. So that would be insane. And oh my gosh, I just feel like that would be really cool. So I just wanted to just throw that out there just for fun and just for kicks and giggles, because we do have a little bit of a crossover here on this show where we talk about women's wrestling as a whole and not just, the WoW stuff, because all of it, collectively comes together. But I just felt like this was just a really cool idea to even think of. Like it would be amazing, like a Soul Ruka and Spring Break 24/7. That would be amazing. That would be really amazing. And So Ruka is somebody I really miss. Like I can't wait till she comes back to NXT. But her with Crystal Waters and Sandy Shore would be amazing. So, or even Tiffany Stratton with the Fab Four. Like, could you imagine a match versus her and Penelope Pink against each other? That would be sick. That would be absolutely sick.
I agree there.
Mm-hmm. And then Princess Aussie could have a tag team with Indy Hartwell if she wanted. That is, if Indy wanted to come back down to NXT, which I'm sure she wouldn't mind, but you just never know. But either way, we're putting it out in the universe. WoW and NXT crossover. Make it happen, powers that be. Um, at any rate, speaking of crazy characters, before we move on to the next tag team match, we did have a fun little segment involving the mother truckers doing their laundry in the back. And as they were doing their laundry, Holly Swag was talking trash about BK Rhythm's raps and talked about, how they basically suck. She was telling her mom how much they suck. So Big Rig Betty said, "Hey, you thinking what I'm thinking?" And she said, "Yeah." And so out of nowhere, a curtain pops up, and you have these women with these giant gold chains on and these Kangol hats. And they were rapping with all this fake money with like a rap song. And do not ask me what any of the lyrics are, because the only thing I can remember is a honk honk, a honk honk, a honk honk, a honk honk. And I was just like, oh my God. This is the sickest thing I've ever seen. And what's even funnier about it is it's like the clothes that they had on in terms of like rap, it was like 30 years old. 30 plus years old, because I'm just like, nobody wears those hats anymore in rap, like in hip hop, or those chains. But it was just hysterical to see them, making fun of BK Rhythm and her raps and thinking they could come up with something better. Mind you, they were offbeat a lot of the time and then didn't really have like a finishing rhyming word to go with the other rhyming word. And it was just like the sickest thing I'd ever seen. And I was just like, oh my God, I love it. I love it. It's just so silly. So, Katrina, how did you feel about that segment with them rapping ish? I know you hated it.
I'm not a fan of BK Rhythm. I'm not. I'm not a fan of the raps. Rather, I'm just not a fan of the raps. So them doing it, I was just like, why? Like, did we really need that? Like, I feel like you could have told, like, when she was like, oh, the rap song, I was like, all right, I'm with you there. I am with you there. And then they decided to do that, and I was like, oh. And I have to think about, like, now both of you guys can't. This sucked. I want to feel that way. I don't want to feel those vibes, and that's what I was feeling. And I was kind of sad about that because I was like, oh, well, now I can't even, like, why would you do this? Why would you put yourself in that light? And now I'm gonna say like, oh, that one time they did that. that rapping, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. Otherwise, did I understand why? I guess it was done because they have the beef with them. Yeah, I understand it, but I'm just like, we didn't need it though. But I understand it, but it wasn't. It was just not. For me, it was not needed. So it was cool. I guess I just was like, oh, ouch, like my ears kind of vibes. That was it. Just personally, I'm just not a fan of the rapping. And that I don't like rap. Let me make that clear. I actually do. I just don't like when they are rapping. I can't. Drives up a wall. But that's otherwise, I get it. I guess do you? But I was just like, oh god, like why? When I saw it, just like, geez, why?
Yeah, my mouth was open the entire time, and I was like, I can't believe they're doing this. Like, I couldn't believe it, but I know that they were doing that to be silly. And honestly, I was just like, wow. And I just couldn't stop laughing, like, for about a good 10 minutes at it. And then when I quit laughing and I saw them come out again for the match, all I did was a honk honk, a honk honk, a honk honk, a honk honk. It's low key catchy, if you're just into stuff like that. But this, of course, led to the third match, which was the Brat Pack, BK Rhythm, and Gigi Gianni versus the Mother Truckers, Big Rig Betty and Holly Swag. And this match was pretty good, and it was relatively short in comparison to a lot of the other matches. But of course, BK Rhythm saw their little rap and everything, and she could not stand it. She hated it. She hated every inch of it. She said, no, no, that was not hip hop. That was karaoke at the truck stop. That wasn't a bop. That was a flop. If you posers want to run DMV, well, guess what? Brat Pack's going on top. And of course, she had to do a diss rap back at them. And of course, I know Katrina didn't like that either. So this episode was just full of moments where it was full of rap that Katrina didn't like, and I as I was watching it, I was like, I know she's gonna hate this whole thing, but I'm just laughing at it for now, and it's just funny. These women have the wow factor for real because oh my god, it was just funny. So the match got started when BK and Gigi grabbed a hold of Holly and Big Rig Betty by the gold chains and choked them out and then slammed them down. And they just proceeded to, jump them and stomp all over them towards the start of the match. And BK tried to go for an arm drag, but then Holly blocked and reversed it, for a 2 count cover. And then BK kicked Holly, and then Holly kicked BK. It was sort of like a back and forth between the two. And I was just like, okay, like I would be very interested in seeing those two fight each other one-on-one because they seem to have each other's number a whole lot throughout the match, and I was like, that's cool. And then at one point Holly actually gave double knees to her back because Holly is just a giant wrecking ball that just loves to throw herself around, and I love it. And then Miami Sweet Heat was also on commentary, and they were talking mad trash about the Mother Truckers, calling them trailer trash and all sorts of other things, and I was just like, y'all are just rude as F. But after that point, BK then kicked Holly in the back and gave a suplex to her. And then BK threw Holly into Gigi's boot, and they played the isolation game with Holly for a little while. But then once Holly tagged in Big Rig Betty, Betty just, went on a tear and proceeded to, hit a kick to BK and then they both hit 2 clotheslines to both of the women, and they wound up winning the match. So the Mother Truckers won. And then after that, on commentary, well, actually when they weren't on commentary anymore, Lindsay basically, told them to go back to the trailer court where you belong, and they were pretending like they couldn't hear. So yeah, I don't know if this means that the Mother Truckers will have to fight, Miami Sweet Heat again, but honestly, David did mention how they basically handcuffed Betty and basically jumped on Holly like weeks ago / last month. So if they did fight again, I wouldn't blame them for it, but then again, I actually wouldn't mind if the Mother Truckers fought Miami Sweet Heat for #1 contendership just to, knock them down a peg or two. But, who knows? So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match and the extra raps?
Didn't need the extra reps. Hey, Eric. Definitely didn't need the extra reps. I was like, all right, see, I got enough of it already, and now but I knew that BK was going to have to say something because that's what she does. Wasn't necessary. However, I did think the match was, pretty good. We got some good action in there. And I think this is when I say I think maybe somebody need to focus less on reps and more on what you need to do to win a match. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying, just a little bit of advice. Maybe focus on some matches a little bit more. Stop writing reps or whatever it is that you feel to do in your free time. You need to get it together. But I thought it was a good match. I thought, as you said, there was definitely some chemistry, and I wouldn't mind seeing that either. As far as it kind of solo, just to kind of see what they would do. But otherwise, I think I thought it was solid. Good tag team action, and I don't know if this means the feud is over, but I don't feel like it is. I don't know if it's definitely over just yet, but otherwise, it was good for what we got. Sans the rapping, because I didn't really care for that, but everything else is fine.
Yeah, it was really good. And honestly, I just want more for the Mother Truckers this season. Like, I want to see them, actually go for the WOW tag team titles as opposed to just it being Miami Sweet Heat all the time. Hence why, I'm giving my suggestion that maybe the Mother Truckers will fight Miami Sweet Heat for that number one contention. Because as far as I know, we have yet to see Big Rig Betty and Holly Swag go up against the Tonga twins. Like I feel like that's a match we have not seen just yet. So if we get that, then that would be, something fresh to look at, and it would just be something really cool. So I am really looking forward to the rise of the Mother Truckers this year. And I'm glad that they won this match. And of course, the Brat Pack are going to have to go back to the drawing board anyway, because they were talking about how they might want to join the trios tournament. So, and that starts next week. So it's just really crazy stuff. So after that match, we go backstage and, well, actually, no, before we go backstage, they made the announcement that this coming Saturday, there will be a WOW debut, another new WOW girl in the form of Lil J Boogie. And it looks like she is a break dancer, or a more colorful, sort of break dancer, in the sense of, I guess if you could compare it to Robbie Rocket, she seems more of a colorful one because she was carrying a big colorful boom box that's, popular these days. So I can't wait to see that debut because she looks like a really cool girl. I did find her on Instagram. And she seems really amazing, and she is a professional dancer in real life. So I can't wait to see that take place. And then I think next week we're also getting a rematch of the All American girls and Jesse Jones and Amber O'Neal. So it's a pretty good episode that's on the horizon this Saturday. So backstage, we see Team Spirit talking about, their intentions to join the trios tournament with the addition of Pep Riley to their team. But then G.I. Jane and the Classmaster overheard them, and they insulted them as just little cheerleaders, and how they were not going to be able to win the trios tournament. And then they said, well, how do you know, you're going to win? And then she said, and they were just like, you don't even have a third partner. But G.I. Jane and the Classmaster reiterated that, it's probably for the best that you don't know who our third partner is, so you won't be able to prepare for it. And it's going to be a huge surprise. So Team Spirit stated that they don't need luck because they have Coach. You're welcome. And that was really the end of that. And of course, Coach Campanelli mentioned that Samantha Smart isn't going to be in the ring because she's not a fan of it. So it's pretty safe to assume that they're going to get a third member that's someone else who's more of a wrestler type. So, Katrina, who do you think their third member is going to be?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, this could definitely, go away unless they bring the disciplinarian back, for just the trios, just because she was part of that squad before. I wouldn't mind that, but just I feel like because you got both G.I. Jane, who's a bit as far as tall, have some meat to her, and like like I said, the people using their body strengths in this regard, and then also Classmaster kind of has some height to her as well. I feel like it would make sense to have somebody else that also has some height to them, like just because I feel like if you're really trying to dominate best way to do it. You got three girlies. Not that there's anything against short girl. I'm a short girly. Not that there's anything against that. I'm just feeling in regards if you're really trying to like make a name in trios, that'll probably be the best move. So I'm not even sure who I can think of that would be solo enough that would be okay with teaming with them, because I feel like me. I mean, maybe you can get like a Adriana, Gambino if she wanted to do something just to see if she can get a title. But then it's also like you're kind of on a roll too. Like you're on your solo run that you really need to put yourself in anything until you get there. And so um I'm really not sure, honestly. I don't see Vicky leaving Fab Four for this. I feel like if anything, it'll be her, and like Miami Sweet Heat if they were gonna do trios. I just don't see Penelope putting herself in the trios. Not that she don't like them. I just feel like she's more of a I want my solo title kind of vibes. So like, I don't know. I'm not sure who. I mean, it's like as far as who I can think of that's completely solo. That'll be like, all right, let's do this. I can't really. Yes, I maybe unless I'm gonna get somebody else new, and then maybe it's like, oh, another new person, and then cool. Or you can maybe even get one of the girlies who just came in, and see if they would be okay for now popping into a trios. Tiana, how well that work, kind of put them in a team. You don't really know how they work yet with you as a group, but it's you got Gloria. You have Goldie. There's people you can kind of see if they would want to just pop up, and again, that can kind of put a little bit more pizzazz onto the team. So it could be a few people.
Yeah, it could be. Like, I have three people in mind for, who I think it is. Number one, you mentioned the disciplinarian because she does have history with G.I. Jane and Samantha Smart. That would be good, like a really great choice because of their past chemistry. Another fun person I thought of, who we haven't seen in wrestling in a minute, is Camille. Like, because when you talk about big people, who sort of has that size commonality with G.I. Jane and with the Classmaster, I feel like Camille would be an amazing addition to the WoW roster if she wanted to go there. That would be amazing for her, coming from NWA. And then my other choice is just a fun choice. What if it's Mercedes Monet? What if it's her? What if she
Wouldn't
just
it be opposed? Wouldn't be opposed to it?
what if she just surprises us all and just hits us in the face and be like, I'm going to WoW, like, and WoW is Monet. Like, I would die. It would be amazing. So those are my top three choices, but those other choices that you mentioned, like Goldie Collins and those other women, like those are really good choices. Adriana Gambino. Yeah, those are great choices as well. So we'll just have to see because of course the trios tournament starts this weekend and I can't wait to see that. That's going to be really, really cool. I'm excited about it. And then, of course, after that point, Vicky Lynn McCoy did join David and Nigel on commentary during the main event match. And before we got to the match, Abilene Maverick, the WoW World Champion, actually ran into Princess Aussie, who, of course, is the heartbroken and gilded former WoW World Champion, who should have been first in line for a championship rematch if we're really being serious. But let's just hush with that part. Abilene Maverick is so delusional that she actually told Princess Aussie that she felt like she could beat her and Penelope Pink and any other girl that tries to step to her for the WoW World title. And Princess Aussie was like, okay, good luck with that. And she watched her walk up the steps, headed towards the main event. So this was interesting for me. And this broke my heart because I'm just like, Princess Aussie deserves to still be champion at this point of life. And she isn't. And it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. I hate it. Like, it just makes me sad. Um, so yeah, Katrina, do you want to add anything else before we move on to the main event when it came to that segment?
No, I feel like you definitely kind of hit it on the head as far as it just makes no sense either. But here we are. Here we are.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of, here we are. This leads us to our main event, which was, of course, Penelope Pink versus Abilene Maverick for the WOW World Championship. Of course, Penelope Pink feels like she has the right to this type of match because she was never pinned for the WOW World title, which is true. But of course, she lost it in that triple threat between her, Tormenta, and Princess Aussie. And yeah, Tormenta took the pin, but either way, they were just trying to say she was never pinned, so she deserves a chance and all of that. So she got her chance. And for what it's worth, Penelope Pink gave her all because I felt like athletically, she basically carried the whole match. And I hate to even say that, but the truth is, Penelope basically ate up Abilene Maverick throughout the whole match. Even though there were a couple of spots where Abilene, of course, even gave a knee to Penelope Pink's face, like in that picture, it just felt like Penelope was just dominating her throughout the entire match. And there was a couple of moments where even after she hit her pink thunder bomb, where I thought for sure she was going to win, or the pretty in pink where I thought she was going to win. And it was just like, it was so many moments. And even in the beginning of the match, when Penelope threw her jacket in her face and started wailing on her with those punches, Abilene ran away. Like, she just ran away and basically called like a timeout. And I'm just like, ma'am, there's no timeouts in championship matches. Get your butt back in the ring. And she tried, of course, to submit Penelope, but that didn't necessarily work all the way through. So it was just like, I thought it was going to be a foregone conclusion that maybe Penelope was going to win. And sadly enough, I was rooting for Penelope to win in a crazy way because, of course, this is 2024. Things are changing, and now I'm rooting for my worst enemy. Like, what the heck? But in a twisted turn of events, Vicky Lynn McCoy got up from commentary and tried to interfere on Penelope Pink's behalf. And when she tried to hit um Abilene ducked, and then Penelope wound up getting hit herself, and then Abilene covered her for the 1, 2, 3 and took advantage of that and retained the WOW World title. So Abilene is still champion due to being the luckiest Texas girl on the planet. And that's how the episode ended, with her celebrating like, that was just a hard fought victory, and Penelope and the Fab Four just looking at each other, just dumbfounded because they just can't believe what had happened. So this is where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. Abilene is still the WOW World Champion, and yeah, Princess Aussie is still waiting on her chance because she did tweet about it yesterday. I saw her tweet about it last night. So yeah, this is a journey. So Katrina, how did you feel about this match and the goings on of the Fab Four and how they wound up messing themselves up there?
I think Vicky did that on purpose because, girl, it is a title match. It's a title match. This is the one time. It wasn't like Penelope necessarily needed help. She was literally, as you said, carrying the match. It wasn't like she was getting beat up badly and she needed assistance. She literally didn't need your help at that moment. And you came in there and did something to her instead. And I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like she might have been hating a little bit. You hating a little bit because somebody else is getting some sunshine and you not, get some attention and you not. Because what was the purpose of that? You do that if you think the person needs the help. When you do situations and the person in your team accidentally get hit, it's usually because you're trying to help a person who might have needed some help. But in this regard, Penelope was doing her thing the whole match. What do you really need to help her for? I feel like in this regard, she was just hating a tad, and then she cost Penelope the title. I'm thinking, I'm not understanding, for the love of everything, why they're keeping this title on Abilene. I don't know. I don't know why, because girl was not really wrestling. So I don't know when she was doing a lot her title. She's still, again, still champion another week. And I'm like, all right, guys, the experiment is over. Stop experimenting. What do you want us to get from this? Why are we doing this? Like, she's just beating these people magically, they're clearly better than her. It's insane to me. I thought Penelope did a great job, but I always said, as you know, I said a little earlier, I always thought Penelope did when it came to actually wrestling. When she wasn't engaging in little things, when she's actually wrestling, she does what she needs to do every time. And so I'm just like annoyed because I'm like, not that necessarily you want Penelope to be a champion again, but again, anybody is better for me. Anybody's better than Abilene. That's just the vibes I'm on right now. It can be anybody as long as it's not her. Those are the vibes I'm on. And so that just irritated me. And I'm just like, of course, this is the way this would go. But then, of course, like Vicky, you could have waited. You do that when you sure she needs assistance. If you're gonna cheat or whatever to help, that was not the moment. I feel like you did that knowingly, and now look, now she lost the match and doesn't have the title, and now here we are. It's just a lot of shenanigans. A lot of shenanigans. I didn't understand, but yeah, here we are.
So you think Vicky Lynn McCoy was on some Carmelo Hayes type stuff?
It's possible because I didn't understand why would she need to pop in at that moment. It wasn't like Penelope needed the assistance. You do that normally when your teammate needs assistance. If you're gonna cheat, then you come in like, oh, they might need assistance. And sometimes it does, sometimes with the heels, it don't always go that way. They'll try to help their teammate and wind up knocking out the teammate. It's like, oh man. In this regard, Penelope did not need any assistance. What was the purpose of it? Logically, it just doesn't make sense to me. And yes, I'm starting to feel like maybe she hating a little bit. She is the only member of the group that didn't have a title yet. So, it's very possible that she's feeling away about it. I don't know. She probably like, oh, I helped you get rid of the beast and you get this title shot. It could really well be a few things. I was just like, it just didn't make sense for you to pop up in this during this. It was unnecessary. But here we are.
Yeah, I have mentioned that before. Like, I have wondered, what Vicky Lynn McCoy's, intentions are when it comes to the group. Because literally, when the group had all the gold, Vicky Lynn was the only one who didn't have any, which low key led me to think, even with the addition of the trios title, like, what if they, made another mid card title? Even though it's kind of weird to think of that because it's a 1 hour show. But at the same time, every title doesn't have to be on every episode. So maybe that's the way that they could make that work. And if Vicky Lynn would want a title, she could be able to go for that. But she could, feel a certain type of way, when it comes to everyone else going for a title and she's not able to have anything. Like, it could be just that. And even with Penelope Pink being a part of the Fab Four, even she said that all the other girls of the Fab Four have her back and she doesn't necessarily have their back. So it could be a self-serving thing where Penelope just feels like, she's the David Ruffin and everybody else is the Temptations. Like, it could be that type of situation. And Vicky Lynn could come to resent that and just want to, ruin an opportunity so she can have one. But what type of opportunity can you have when you have 6 herniated discs? Like, ma'am, you need to sit down before you twist something and then you wind up having to go back to the hospital and send more of those medical bills to David McLane that he was complaining about earlier in the show. So, I mean, I don't know, but I feel like that's a really good point that you brought up. Like, I do wonder what Vicky Lynn McCoy's motivations are as she continues to matriculate towards WOW. Does she want to be more than a enforcer? Like, I do wonder about that, but maybe we'll see more of that blossom. But first, she's got to heal that neck, because, ma'am, 6 herniated discs. Sit down. Just sit down right now. Sit down. Like, do some PT. Like, get something fixed. But that's really how it ended. Abilene is still the champion, and hopefully this will mean that they're just building up to Princess Aussie getting her chance, and her being the one to take the title off her and getting the celebration that she deserves. But I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see. But that ends our episode of Steph and Kat Talk WOW. Of course, thank you guys so much for watching us on all of our platforms on Facebook, X/Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Thank you guys for supporting us as we move into the new year, and for just sticking it out with us and watching on all of the platforms and stuff. Now, of course, I did get some questions this week on social media when I was sharing clips of the show from people on TikTok wondering where they can watch WOW, and where, of course, you can watch this show. You can watch WOW on Pluto TV, or you can go on wowe.com and type in your city name. with the state, or you can type in your zip code and see where it's airing for you on regular cable if you have regular cable or satellite cable or stuff like that. You can also watch it on Hulu from what I've also heard. And after the Monday after the weekend it airs, you can watch it on YouTube. You can watch all the matches on YouTube, and then they do upload the episode a little bit later to YouTube as well, so you can watch it on there and catch up with the action as you go. And of course, after you watch them on whatever platform you watch them on, you can come back here to our YouTube or to wherever we're at on Facebook or something. Follow us and subscribe to us on our YouTube channels at The Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. And watch our after show that we do every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern and 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, unless otherwise stated, because life be life and sometimes and we have to reschedule. And you can just watch us talk about the show. I'm so happy that people are seeing the content that we are posting collectively and are interested in watching the show and interested in watching us talk about it. I'm really happy, for that, and we're blessed in that way, and I just can't wait to grow more and more. So of course, Katrina, thank you for hosting this show with me, and just tell everybody where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on.
I am on most social media in Cat We Trust, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, Twitter. The E is a three. I will have some interviews actually coming up quite soon. Had to reschedule some of them because things happen. Not on my end, but this time wasn't my end, but things happen, and so we rescheduled. But I will have some new interviews coming up, as well as I will be having some new reviews up because it's been really hectic, honestly, on my end. Just really hectic, and so I feel like I've been so delayed with a whole bunch of things. But that's pretty much what you can catch me, and I will be having some new articles, but quite a few sites actually coming up as well. So check that out on my social media. But that's pretty much it.
Awesome sauce. I know you're going to have some great content writers wise and of course interviews wise, because you always make good stuff. And I can't wait to see what it's going to be. So of course you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter/X at Queen Steph Hardy, and on Threads at Queen Steph Hardy as well. You can follow my show, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, at on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast, and on X at Hardy Wrestle Pod. And also you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, with the pink, purple, and blue logo with the wrestling ring with HWP in the middle. Subscribe there and hit the notification bell to be notified every time I go live. I have a new episode coming out hopefully this Friday, where I talk about everything I loved in wrestling this week and the latest news and gossip-ish. And of course, you can watch my HWP Extra episode where I talked about Mercedes Moné and her final matches in New Japan Pro Wrestling against Stephanie Vaquer, who is going to have a match at Battle in the Valley this weekend. I'm so excited for that. And she followed me on Instagram, so that was amazing. She has a match against Viva Van, who is a friend of ours. And of course, Trish Adora is going to be having a match as well against Julia at Battle in the Valley too. Just great women's wrestling going on. And yeah, you can just check out that HWP Extra on my YouTube channel. And also you can listen to the audio. My podcast episodes are also available on audio. So if you listen to podcasts via Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and everywhere else audio podcasts are, you can listen to it there. So yeah, continue to support the vibe and also book your girl, because I am open for 2024 for commentary and maybe ring announcing if you want me to. I'm not entirely sure, but if you need me for anything for wrestling shows, I am available for panels. I am available for writing. I am available, just DM me or just email me and we can talk rates and all of those things, because I am still trying to take over the world as much as I possibly can. So, with that in mind, thank you for joining us for Steph and Cat Talk WOW Superheroes, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. And until next time, bye, y'all.